like to call this meeting of the Civilian Complaint Review Board to order. Good evening. Welcome to the Civilian Complaint Review Board's March board meeting. I am Fred Davey. I am the chair of the CCRB, and I am pleased to be here in Brooklyn with all of you this evening. We are meeting just a couple of weeks after New York City's first ever youth summit on policing that we hosted, that the CCRB hosted at NYU on February 26. Hundreds of people from all 5 boroughs during that summit. I had a chance to attend when I say that right. Let's give to speaking truth to power. Perhaps most impressive was their conviction that they are in the dialogue about young people in the NYPD. CCRB staff, the CCRB's community partners, and our Youth Advisory Council members work. And I want to youth, I work with youth on police is we learned at that youth summit, and we'll use it as a basis for an upcoming report on the topic, which I encourage all of you to look at later this year. Secondly, I'd also like to highlight a recent development that was a legal victory for the CCRB, but truly a victory for all New Yorkers. Last February, after 6 years of research and extensive conversations with advocates, this board passed a resolution declaring that sexual misconduct by members of the NYPD is an abuse of authority, which means the CCRB has the power to investigate complaints that involve sexual misconduct and officers of the NYPD. We declared that when someone experiences sexual misconduct at the hands of the NYPD, they have a right to report it to this independent, all-civilian agency. We maintain that position throughout a legal challenge to our decision because we knew it was the right thing to do. It was reasonable and it made perfect sense to us. And 1 year later, on behalf of all New Yorkers that believe our city should have zero tolerance for sexual misconducts by the members of the NYPD, I am pleased to report that it has also made perfect sense to the Supreme Court of the state of New York. We won that case. That said, I take this opportunity to remind everyone here this evening that if you have experienced sexual misconduct by an NYPD officer, you have the right to report it to the CCRB, and our staff will investigate it. And last but most certainly not least, I'd like to note a new addition to the CCRB staff, Blake Fellow Chelsea Lay Flukas. Chelsea, are you here? Hi. All right. Chelsea Lay will be working with us to identify ways to help reduce truncations. That's simply to reduce the number of cases that we close without an investigation. She's also been working very hard on this endeavor, already been working very hard on this endeavor, and we're glad to have her on the staff of the CCRB to help us better understand how to support New Yorkers who are filing complaints. And before we move forward with remarks from our Executive Director, John Darsh, well, wait a minute, why don't I stop and just have Chelsea stand up? Chelsea Lee, will you stand up so folks can see you? She's our Blake Fellow. And before we have remarks from our Executive Director, Mr. Jonathan Darsh, I'm going to ask my fellow board members if they will introduce themselves, and I'll start at the end here with Mr. Joseph Puma.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joseph Puma. Happy to be in Brooklyn tonight. I'm the Manhattan City Council designee to the board from Manhattan. That's you.
Okay, my name is Nathan Joseph. I am the City Council. Thank you. I am the City Council designee from Staten Island.
Hello? Yeah, it's on. Good evening. My name is Erica Bond. I'm a Brooklyn native. Happy to be here tonight, and I'm a mayoral designee.
And as I've already said, I am Fred Davey. I'm the chair of the board, and I'm mayoral designee and appointed by the mayor.
My name is Jonathan Darsh, and I'm the executive director of the agency.
Good evening. My name is Michael Rivadeneira, and I am the Bronx designee to the board.
My name is Frank Dwyer. I am also a Brooklyn native, I would add, and I'm a police commissioner representative.
Thank you, board members, and we'll now hear some remarks from our executive director, Mr. Darsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to also add my welcome to join our March board meeting. I'd like to thank the following individuals for their assistance in securing this space and otherwise helping us prepare for the meeting. Sandra Johnson, Senior Director of the Cornerstone Program. Yvette Rouget of the Brownsville Legal Hand. And Lisa Kenner, President of Van Dyke Houses Tenant Association. I want to join my congratulations to the youth who participated in our first youth summit, and I hope it is the first of many, because I thought it was a very powerful conversation. I was very impressed as well by the quality of the people who participated, and I was amazed because I would never have been that put together when I was their age. There were several people in their low teens, and I was just blown away by the depth of their commitment and really the depth of their knowledge and understanding. It was really amazing. On this past Thursday, I was privileged to testify before the 2019 Charter Revision Commission at City Hall, and I was able to offer proposals to strengthen the CCRB. There were two panels before the panel I was on. The first one had advocates from around the city of New York, and the second had experts in the field. President of NACOL, the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement, Brian Kaur, and the Independent Police Monitor of Denver, Nicholas Mitchell. And I would advise any of you who are interested in police accountability to review those, that panel in particular, because I thought some of the testimony offered by Mr. Kaur on how trauma affects interactions between civilian and police was very powerful. The testimony and schedule for future hearings is available on the Commission's website, charter2019.nyc. And this Friday, the agency is proud to be continuing the conversation it's been trying to spark around civilian oversight of law enforcement. We are hosting a full-day symposium at John Jay College on Friday. We're pleased to be welcoming Baltimore State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby as the keynote speaker, and we're looking forward to hearing from her and several other experts on police oversight. And as part of that conversation, we're going to hear from you here tonight. And if you have a comment about specific incidents of police misconduct, whether you'd like to report on misconduct or follow up on a complaint you've already made, you should direct those comments to investigators who we have here tonight. Chris Anderson and Harold Rodriguez, can you guys stand up? They're there in the back, and you can go to them. And then to ensure fairness and give everyone who wants the opportunity to speak, please limit your comments to 2 minutes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Starch. We're now going to have a presentation on outreach by Yahaira Alvarez.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to be back in Brooklyn. My name is Yahaira Alvarez. I'm the Director of Outreach and Intergovernmental Affairs for the CCRB. I just want to take just a couple minutes to go over our agency, our jurisdiction, and how to contact us. So as been mentioned, we're a city agency. We're independent from the NYPD. We're neutral and unbiased, and we are charged with investigating allegations of police misconduct. We mediate, investigate, and administratively prosecute those allegations. You've met some of the board members. A full board is composed of 13. 5 are appointed by the mayor, 5 are designated by the city council, and 3 by the police commissioner. Now, we don't investigate all allegations of police misconduct. One way of remembering what we investigate is the acronym FADO, F-A-D-O. The F stands for force. If force is used in interaction with a police officer, we are empowered to investigate that to determine if misconduct occurred, if it was excessive or unnecessary given the totality of those circumstances. We also investigate allegations of abuse of authority. It's a big category. It includes improper stops, improper searches, improper entry, a police officer, asking a police officer for their name and badge number, them covering it up and refusing to provide that information, allegations of threatening to call ICE, allegations of a police officer asking for citizenship status. And as the chair mentioned, as of February of last year, and what we will continue to do is investigate allegations of sexual harassment. So that could include verbal, that could include a police officer making inappropriate approaches to me, it could also include or propositions. And the third category is discourtesy. So we investigate allegations of a police officer using profanity. If a police officer asks for my ID, I give it to her. Upon returning that ID, she throws it on the ground. It's something that we would investigate. And the last category is offensive language. So that's language that inappropriately refers to my race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, religion, disability status. And when we talk about abuse of authority, there's a new law that went into effect in October called the Right to Know Act. There's a lot more information outside. I really encourage you all to get a piece of paper that really describes the nuance of the law. It's a little complicated. It's not in every situation, but what you need to know is that in certain situations, a police officer has to proactively give you a business card at the conclusion of that interaction. If you don't know, you can always ask for that business card. And there are certain situations, if a police officer doesn't have the legal justification to search you, they have to request that consent for the search. Again, I really encourage you to, on your way out, to really pick up those materials. And last but not least, how to contact us. There are various ways of contacting us. 311 is the easiest number to remember. You can also contact us directly at 1-800-341-CCRB. You can come to our office at 100 Church Street, located on the 10th floor in Manhattan. We've also partnered with Councilmember Cornegie's office. So the last Friday of every month at 4 o'clock, we have investigators on hand for you to come in and take that complaint if that's easier for you to get to. You can also file a complaint directly at a precinct. You can also file a complaint via mail at our mailing address, 100 Church Street, 10th floor, New York, 10007. And I know that you've met Jahai, I know that some of you know Timothy. We really want to encourage you that we want to be in the community as much as possible. So if you're part of any church, any after-school program, any religious institution, we really would love to come out and share this information a little bit more in depth with residents. So you can give me an email, shoot me an email at yalvarez@ccrb.nyc.gov. You can request a card from any of us that are outside. And you can also follow us on Twitter at ccrb_NYC to get up to date on upcoming events. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yahaira. We will now have a presentation on policy data. Nicole Napolitano. Nicole.
Thank you. right. Wow, what a warm welcome. Thanks, everyone. Good evening. I'm Nicole Napolitano. I'm the Director of Policy and Advocacy for the CCRB. And I'm going to provide you with a bit of a snapshot of data focusing on Brooklyn, where we are right now. So I will jump on ahead here. And I know that for folks in the back, these numbers are a little difficult to read. There are materials, if you haven't picked them up already on your way in, you can pick them up on your way out that have really specific numbers for Brooklyn and list out all of our complaints and the things that I'm about to speak to now as well. So just going through the percentage of our fully investigated allegations split up by FATO, which Yahira just spoke to as well. The majority of complaints in Brooklyn as well as in New York. So Brooklyn's on the left there, New York's on the right. That large blue slice there, those are abuse of authority investigations, right, allegations. I can actually go back and just so folks can see there. So it's 65% of the allegations in Brooklyn were abuse of authority, followed by 21% for force. And those are the two larger categories there. These are the board dispositions for fully investigated allegations. And now allegations, there may be many allegations in a single complaint, or there might be one allegation in a single complaint. For these, the largest category here is unsubstantiated. That's 40% in Brooklyn. And that's a category that indicates that the CCRB was unable to determine what happened in those particular incidents one way or another. 32% were exonerated, meaning that upon investigation it was found that the police officer's actions were within the boundaries of the law or the patrol guide. 12% were MOS unidentified. MOS means member of service. And that means a police officer's actions were determined to have occurred, but we didn't know who that person was in that particular incident. 10% were substantiated, meaning that upon the totality of the circumstances, it was determined that the misconduct was in fact misconduct. And 7% were unfounded, meaning that the incident was found to have not occurred the way that it was described. Our next one, this is going to be really tough to see, and I apologize. I know it's a little far away. The left side here compares the CCRB complaint rate for 2018 complaints to NYPD's reported data on felony crime. And sometimes we'll see an increase in complaints in areas that have higher numbers of police interactions with the public, which we're approximating here with the NYPD reported crimes. And so you can see the 84th and 73rd precincts. Those are the two really dark red blocks on the map on the left there. And those are precincts that we have very high complaint rates, so a high number of complaints compared to the population in those precincts. If you look on the right-hand side, though, some of the precincts that have higher numbers of complaints don't necessarily have high numbers of police-public interactions. And so when we see those numbers approximate each other, those are the same. There are certain precincts, for example, like the 81st precinct or the 75th precinct, in which both are very high. There are some, for example, the 94th and the 88th, in which the crime rate is higher compared to the complaint rate. Those are areas in which we may need to do a bit more outreach, areas in which people might not know about the CCRB. And in some cases, the reverse occurs. So in the 73rd and 77th precincts, the crime rate there is lower than the complaint rate, so lower than expected. And those are areas in which there might be an increased rate of misconduct or an increased amount of reporting to the CCRB. As was mentioned during the introductory remarks, we had a very successful youth summit. We have a youth advisory council that works with the really work on our interactions with youth. This is an area that we're looking at very closely in preparation for a policy report that we are working on this year. In New York, only 15% of the population is between the ages of 14 and 24 years old, but approximately 18% of complaints come from that age group. So we're looking very closely at that as well. And then this final chart, and again, you'd find detailed information on this on the statistics sheet that's available at the table just outside are complaints received for PSAs, or public service areas, which work within NYCHA facilities. And so on the left-hand side here, we see the complaints broken down by PSAs in particular boroughs. Brooklyn is that top right blue corner there, so PSAs 1, 2, and 3, and that's 33% of the complaints that we get for PSAs, compared to 32% from Manhattan, 29% from the Bronx, and 6% from Queens. There are none from Staten Island. There are no PSAs in Staten Island. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see the proportion of PSA complaints. 24% of the PSA complaints that we receive came from PSA 2. And just to close out there, if you're interested in the data from the CCRB, I would recommend going to nyc.gov/DTI to reach our data transparency initiative. Those numbers are updated each month on a regular basis, and so you'll be able to get up-to-date information on what's going on in your area.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. And again, I would encourage you to be in touch with the office for information that either Yahira or Nicole has provided. We'll now move to community comment. I'm going to read from a list I have here, and then after community comment, we will go to public comment. If you want to make a public comment and you have not signed in, please sign in at the back, and we'll be happy to hear from you. I'm going to start with Lee Chern, who is here from Congressman Jeffrey's office. Lee Chern. Sorry, Lee Church.
All right, I was about to correct it. The name is Lee Church. The handwriting may have thrown him off a little tight on the card. I am here representing Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. Of course, he is not here because he is in D.C. diligently working for you and others throughout the nation. But I am here to hear whatever it is that the public has to say. We have 2 other staff members en route. Our district director will be here as well. So if you do not see me, you will be able to see her upon your exit. If you have any questions, concerns, or anything that we can help in addition to the CCRB, you can actually bring that up with our office and we'll connect with you and figure it out. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Church. Thank you. Next on our list, I have Yvette Roche, who is a volunteer coordinator for the Brownsville Legal Hand. Ms.
It's Yvette Rouget. Yeah. I kind of like it, you know. I've had it for over 50 years, so I kind of like it. Yeah.
All right.
And no, you're kidding. I just found out. Okay. So my name is Yvette Rouget, and I'm the manager for Brownsville's Legal Hand. We have several offices throughout the boroughs. We have an office in Highbridge, one in East Tremont, one in Jamaica Avenue in Queens, and we have one in Crown Heights. Legal Hand is a storefront walk-in office where we have trained professional volunteers that assist our community, and we're not really restricted in terms of our demographic, who we provide services to. But our trained volunteers provide services, free legal information, assistance, and referrals to help resolve issues that affect your everyday life in areas like housing, family, immigration, divorce, domestic violence, public benefits, etc. All of our services are free. I have flyers and I have business cards if anyone's interested. We help also with housing arrears, rental arrears, and repairs. I think that's about it. I'm nervous. Okay, no, I'm not.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Next, we have a youth representative from NYCHA Brooklyn Zone 6 Youth Leadership Council. I'm going to mess this up. Mecca Campbell. All right.
Hello. Can you hear me? You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Mecca Campbell. I'm the president of Zone 6 Youth Council. Well, I was in the summit in February for the CCRB, and I thought it was kind of good, actually. I thought it was great because I actually got to see that there are adults who do care about the voice of the youth and our interactions with police officers. My community, actually, we do a couple events with the police. We have a build-a-block. So that's basically when police officers come to the community center and they speak to the youth and to the adults about their procedures, their protocol, what they do, why they do it, basically so that we understand their job and why they do the things they do, and so we can tell them our complaints about the actions or the way they confront the youth and the adults. What else? We also do events during Christmas. So basically the police officers donate gifts and the youth hand them out with police officers, and they basically try to interact with the youth and the community so that we can build a relationship. So basically it's like a part of what the CCRB does, but with the youth. So I feel like working with them is beneficial because we can find ways to implant those activities into other communities so that police officers can interact and grow with the community that they work in so that we can all have a bond in our own way. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's great. And now we have a youth representative from Zone 7, NYC Brooklyn East Youth Leadership Council, Kamaya White.
Hello. My name is Kamaya White. I am the president of the Brooklyn East Youth Leadership Council for Zone 7. Okay, I don't do this public speaking thing, sorry. So, sadly, I didn't know that there was a CCRB or an NCO program that's supposed to be in the neighborhood, and I am very active in the neighborhood, and I'm surprised that I didn't know about it. So I had to use Google, my very trusty friend, to look it up. And when I found out about the CCRB, I thought, well, okay, hold on, let me just check. I believe that the role that the CCRB can play in the community is that they just need to do more. I feel like it's not enough done in the community and to help, because if it's supposed to stop with the police misconduct, it's not really doing anything. And frankly, to me, we don't have cops in this neighborhood all the time. We don't have cops to help us with things. You don't really see cops around. And it's like when you do see the cops, they're not helping. They're not making the situations any better than what you normally see. It's like they're adding on to it. And for me to be a teenager and to know about this stuff, and for me to see about the misconduct that's happening to people my age and people that I care about, that sucks. Because if your job is supposed to help us and stop us from the crime and not make it worse, you need to do that. And I feel like that the CCRB should talk to their police officers that are on duty and help them change into not doing that. Because it's not even like a certain race. It'd be the same race cops that could come in the neighborhood and harass the same people. It's like, you probably know the struggle that we going through, and you just making it worse. You're not helping us. You're not trying to encourage us to go to school. You're not trying to tell us to go out in the community and make things better. You're just adding on to the problems, and you're gonna make us think that you don't care, so why should we care? And that's how I feel. about the CCRB and the role that they play.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me just say, Ms. White, one thing we can do better is to better advertise the CCRB so more people like you know who we are and know what we do. And these community meetings that we launched a couple of years ago are our efforts to do that. We still have a long way to go. And so I want you to know that we hear you clearly on that. I also want to say that if you witness a police officer doing something that he or she should not be doing, you should feel free just to pick up the phone, call 311, and say, I want to make a complaint. And they'll take that complaint or go online to the CCRB, and we will investigate it. I can promise you that. This staff will take it very seriously, and we will investigate it. So we're going to do a better job in making sure that people like you know who we are and what we do. And we promise you that if you ever bring a complaint against an NYPD officer, we'll investigate it fully. But thank you. We also have Youth Representative, NYCHA Brooklyn Zone 6, Youth Leadership Council, Zion Pebbles. Do I have that right? Zion Pebbles, please.
It's Peebles.
Peebles, all right?
It's okay.
It is not my night, but this is every community meeting, so.
You want to know what I feel about the police?
Whatever's on your mind.
Whatever's
Yes.
on my mind about the police.
Yes.
Well, in my community, at least, I feel like they're doing a pretty good job with patrols. There's a lot of those actually, way too much due to the crime rate. Thank you. Well, in our community center, as our president Mecca said, we built a lot of rapport with them. They participated in a lot of our events, and I got to know a few of them. They taught us about their job, like with domestic violence. They explained us it and its role and how they proceed to go about it. And they asked us about the issues we had in the community. Like in my building, there are kids that throw rocks at our window during the summertime. They asked us about I got the information, and I helped them out with my mom, participating with them, and we still don't know who does it, but we gotta help, we gotta figure it out. So they're gonna patrol more around the summer around my building. I feel like they're doing a pretty good job over there.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. I have, is it Digna Lane, for Community Relations Manager for Good Shepherd?
Hi, good evening. And I actually wear two hats. I'm also the 73rd Precinct Community Council Vice President. And I have to say that I personally have a decent relationship with the police department. However, I am the grandmother of a 16-year-old boy who just turned 16 today. I'm not going through the story, but for his 16th birthday, he was handcuffed and put in a car because he looked like he fitted a description. So he's making a report now as we speak. In addition to that, I realize there's a disparity in our community of Brownsville between not only women and men, but black boys especially, black young men. And it's not necessarily by the officers that we know. It's not the NCOs, it's not the regular sector car. There are these people, and I feel like I'm beating this to death. There are these other cops that come, they're undercover, they're black and pallid, look like hockey players, which is the way they're being described for the past 3-4 years. They pull your young men up, look at their ID, and if they don't have a warrant, they throw it. You know, so I believe in building better community relations, but I also understand that this audience, there are some kids in here, some young people need to be done. And I have to say, Jahir is doing a wonderful job. You need a raise. Where's Jahir at? Right there. And I tell you, because he's been out there making sure people know and really beating the pavement. However, the meetings, the information session should go into the actual schools that are in those neighborhoods where young people are most impacted. So that's what I ask. You're doing what you're doing, but the numbers will never reflect what it truly is until you address those communities, such as mine, where those young people are being affected and traumatized by the experience with NYPD. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll just make a quick comment, and that is that we have heard now at a series of these community meetings that just what you just mentioned about very often it's not the office, it's not the NCOs, it's not the regular patrol, but it's, as people have described it, officers who come into the area from, as it's perceived, somewhere else, who sort of don't know the community and don't know the people, and the encounters then are less than ideal, and creating the kind of trauma that you're talking about. We've heard that before. We've talked about it before. We promised to share it with the police commissioner, and we will do it again and see if we can get at the root of what this is about. And the idea again is through the youth council and other areas is to try to improve this relationship between the young men, primarily men of young boys and men of color, but young people generally, and the NYPD. We think it's better for everybody if we can do that. So we will stay vigilant on that. Thank you for your comments. Thanks. I have Anthony Newells. How did I do? All right, good. He is president for Brownsville and Violence Out. All right.
Well, today I'm representing the 73rd Precinct Community Council because I'm the president of that also. But I just want to say thank y'all. I have some points here. I'm not going to be long. I see that there was a lot of data, that the CCRB keep. My concern is that how many people have been assaulted, harassed, disrespected that could not make a report because you asked the officer to let me see your badge number and he didn't. He violated you. He cursed at you. He threw your phone. How many of those people, how many of those reports, if we did a statistic on how many people was violated and could not make a report, how many people would that be? That would be a lot of people. Also, my CCRB stands for the Community Council Review Board because the 73rd Precinct, we have Cop of the Month. So if the community see a police officer doing something good, we ask the community to send an email. We're going to honor that cop. But when I go in the precinct, my precinct, I see a wall of young black people in Brownsville that they say are gang members. I think somewhere in another office should be a wall of the cops that have that gang mentality. I'm not laughing. Every time I look at the news, the police department is going, if you seen something, call me. If you see something, call me. If they can ask for our help to turn our community members in, we need to get our own database where we can turn bad cops in. And I really mean it. You have a sexual predators registry. You can go online and see where a sexual predator is at anywhere in the city. We need a bad officer registry so we can know who the hell is tormenting our kids in the community, who is riding around. I was a cop last week because there was a cop car riding around with a bent license plate. I chased this car around for like an hour. And when he stopped, I had to actually get out, take a picture of that plate, because how do you report him? CCRB, how do you report the officer that just harassed me if his license plate is bent up and you can't take a picture of the license plate? You did not see his badge number. You don't know his name. Also, as the council president, I want to let Kamaya know, because I know Kamaya, good young lady, there is many good cops in the community, Kamaya. But I'm going to tell you something. They have the good cops in the precinct when you are in school. That's the good cop attitude. The bad ones are after 6 o'clock. They think that they have to have an attitude in Brownsville to be a police officer. You do not have to. We have to come together as a community, do more roll calls. Our precinct council meetings is the third Thursday of every month. I want all of you to come out. I will invite all of you to do a roll call because I'm going to show you an example of how a tragedy can happen. I asked officers, new officers, is there a difference between dreadlocks and braids? They said no. So that means I can be, excuse me, my brother, I forgot his name. Is this dreadlocks or braids? So now if my son have braids in his hair and a man with dreadlocks just committed a crime, my son can be killed. We have to educate our police officers like the 73rd Precinct do. I'm not the most liked president, and I don't care to be. But the police officers in Brownsville is not going to run rogue, and the commanding officer is not going to cover for them and hire them. If you want us to turn over our members of the community that's bad, I'm expecting him to turn over those damn officers that's bad also. CCRB, help me. This is the only thing I'm leaving you with. At the community council meetings, we don't hear members from the CCRB coming out as much as they should. We have meetings throughout Brownsville. We travel. The council travels throughout Brownsville so everyone can have their voice heard. Only thing I'm asking you to do is to help us. You know, somebody just stated that at the precinct, go to the precinct. Have you ever went to the precinct to complain about a cop? It's not going to happen. So we asking you to come to the precinct council meetings and complain. I will make sure the complaint get through, I promise. Last but not least, what about the language barrier? What about the people in our community that speak Spanish? How can you get a summons from an officer and you can't even understand what the officer is saying? Things like that. How do they make that complaint? Who do they go to? Last but not least, I'm going to leave on this because it's important. There's so many issues, I can't even stay here all night. We have a Mandarin community here in Brownsville, in Riverway Senior Center. What cops speak Mandarin? Who goes over there to hear their complaints, CCRB? Do we have any? This is something that the 73rd Precinct has initiated. We would like a Mandarin cop to go there to ask them, have they been harassed? To ask them, have they been assaulted? Because if they have been, they're probably afraid to make that complaint. So we got to be a little more diverse. And thank y'all very much. Sorry to take so long.
Thank you. I'm going to ask our Executive Director, Mr. Darsh, to respond to a few things you said, and then I'm going to open it up and see if any other board members want to respond.
So I think you brought up a lot of very good points, and I see Yahira has already given you her card because we are committed to going into the communities all over the city and making sure people know about the CCRB. And, you know, Yahira and her team are hardworking and will go anywhere where people will hear them, but there aren't enough of them. So, you know, we will get to the 73rd Precinct. We hear what you're saying and we will be there. With regard to whether you can, what you have to know about the officer who stopped you before you can make a complaint, the answer is you don't need to know their name and shield number to make a complaint. You don't need to know their plate number. If you feel you were the victim of misconduct, contact the CCRB. One of the things we are very good at is identifying police officers. So we can, if we know the date and time and location of an incident, we can find out who officers are who were on duty at that time. If you come to us with the limited information that you have, we will do our best to find the officers. It's not your job to find that out, it's our job. And I think you're correct, diversity is important for the CCRB. And I know the board has charged me as executive director to make sure our staff is as diverse as the city that we represent and that we serve. And we are committed to make sure that the staff can communicate with people whether they speak Spanish or they speak Mandarin. We have many Spanish speakers on staff. We have fewer Mandarin speakers on staff, but we have access to translation services and interpreter services. And it is not incumbent on the person who feels they were mistreated to provide those services, if they come to us, we will give them the services they need. And we'll make sure that we understand them and can serve them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other board members want to comment? All right, thank you. Then we will hear from Dee Bailey, who's the Chief Operating Officer for African American Clergy and Elected Officials Coalitions. Ms. Bailey.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
I just wanted to start off my remarks by talking about meetings like this. I testify and I speak before many, many boards. I can't tell you, I sit here and I watch people come into our community. I watch organizations, oh, we're coming, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and we want to be responsible. We want to be the watchdog agency. I know about the CCRB for a very long time. I'm happy to say I know the work that can be done. I know the work that has been done. But I also know of the work that has not been done. I also know of some of our good police officers who might have had an encounter with someone on a bad day, and that person called or went to CCRB and made a complaint, unsubstantiated, didn't follow up on it. That complaint is still in that officer's file. That complaint follows that officer his whole career because someone put that file and didn't go back. So I wanted to know, in all of our years and everything that we've learned, and my brother, he's no longer here on this earth, but he was a cop. When do we revisit all of these open cases and open files on people who, as they get up in their years, getting ready to retire, maybe they didn't make grade, maybe it stopped them from getting a promotion that they were going to get? Who's revisiting that? I'm not speaking for what these cops made. There's bad cops, there's bad people you work with every day. So we can't just decide that when we go to CCRB, they're guilty and we take it to them. That's not what we should be doing. We should be fair about our assessment. And when we go there, your investigators have to vet it a little bit deeper and do the follow-up. That's number one. Number two, thank goodness, I represent the African American clergy and elected officials. That's a major, major coalition. It's huge. My police chiefs sit on there. My commanding officers sit on the coalition. My elected officials. Our New York State Attorney General sits on the coalition. The bottom line is we know how to work with each other. I'm not saying everybody in our community understands everybody's job. But we have to be respectful of the fact that maybe in some cases our churches and our pastors are not being looked at as gatekeepers for the community. So when I'm a grandmother. When something happens to my grandson, maybe I'm not going to the precinct. Maybe I'm going to my pastor and say, you know what happened to Brian? And maybe my pastor's going to call the chief and say, listen, do you know that this is what happened? That'll never get to the CCRB because we police ourselves. But we have to be interested in how the community works. Yes, I love Jahai. He came before the coalition. Room was full of commanding officers, but he represented CCRB to let them know that he's doing his job. He's letting the community know. He's letting the pastors know there is another arm, there is another watchdog in the community, that we all don't have to suffer. All I'm saying is let's make sure as a community we don't throw the baby out with the bad water. There's some bad cops, yes there are. There's always going to be bad cops. There's always going to be bad co-workers. The executive officers, they can use the report from the CCRB to get rid of that bad cop that maybe they couldn't do it before. But let's make sure everybody understands your role and people don't leave here with the bad idea that once they come to you, that cop is guilty.
So, ma'am, I think it's important to understand that the CCRB complaint is the first step in our process, and we conduct intense, vigorous investigations that the staff will recommend to the board whether or not to substantiate the allegations. And then when the board considers the case, they determine, they have the final say over whether to substantiate the allegation or take some other kind of action. And if they do substantiate the allegation, to recommend discipline. I know there is a fear that officers who have unsubstantiated complaints that it will somehow affect their career. But when I was a prosecutor in the trial room, as part of the APU, we routinely have officers who have substantiated charges against them, substantiated charges, who are promoted during the course of a proceeding. So the idea that somehow a CCRB complaint is going to, especially an unsubstantiated CCRB complaint, is going to somehow derail an officer's career, I just have a hard time crediting. I understand your point.
Officers that have 10 and 12 unsubstantiated complaints, and they do add up to present some kind of negativity. You have to admit
And while I understand, ma'am, what you're saying, I understand what you're saying, ma'am, but I disagree with your premise that they're not getting, that is having an adverse effect on their promotion. And I also would say that if you were in another industry and you had 10 people complain about you, they would probably think that was a sign that there was something wrong with the employee. And so I think it is important not to keep it, that the CCRB keep track of what has happened in our records so that we are aware of what's gone on and what has been alleged to have gone on, even if it could not be substantiated. And this is, I'm going to ask for an indulgence for one moment, because this is a fact I think is often confused by the public. When we talk about exonerated complaints, I think many people think that means the officer didn't do what had been alleged and that it was a false complaint. An exonerated complaint means the person who complained about the conduct, we were able to determine that the conduct occurred, but it was not unlawful. And so that doesn't mean that the person who made the complaint was acting in bad faith. It just means that the officer who did what was alleged to have been done was allowed by the patrol guide and the law to do it. And so I think that's an important distinction to make, and I thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing me to make it.
Thank you, Mr. Darsh. I also just want to comment that we keep track also of a complainant's history with the CCRB so that we can ferret out what are sort of frivolous or perhaps vindictive complaints. So we try to be as fair and impartial and honest and diligent as we possibly can. I hear your point, but we try to keep this as above board as we possibly can as well. So thank you. Any other comments? All right. So we'll hear from Shaquana Boykin, who is the engagement coordinator for Ingersoll Site Mayor's Action Plan.
Hello. Hi. Thank you, everyone, for being here. If you guys do not know what the Mayor's Office Action Plan is, it's at 15 developments, and Ingersoll is one, Van Dyke, Brownsville is one. And we are here to just make sure that we're connecting our residents and agencies and police officers to have a better, safer community. And in Ingersoll, I would like to say we did a report, and a lot of our, not only youth and adults, just feel like the NCOs are amazing. They give out the numbers, you can text them. When they come up to you, they're really just like personable, they smile, they ask you about your day. And then when it goes to our precincts, a lot of the complaints is about, well, when 88th and 84th come, they just respond. And which I guess is okay, because that's what police officers do, respond. But we have to somehow take it back and realize that we're all humans, especially in Ingersoll, there's lots of trauma. Like there's been lots of crimes, shootings that a lot of the residents have seen. So when it comes to a police officer approaching them without taking that care or just being really disrespectful, that young person or that adult will respond differently. So what we ask for is that we don't even know about CCRB, that you come to our community. You not only just come to a community center and do a workshop, but come to our development, come on the basketball courts, come to the playgrounds, and talk to us. A lot of the residents don't even know how to complain. When we have build-a-block meetings, literally there's 0 people in our meetings. When you ask the people why you don't come to the build-a-block meeting, they're like, well, our NCOs are not there. And I start thinking about that. So in Ingersoll, we're trying to make sure that 88th, 84th, and the NCOs can be together at one meeting. Maybe it'll make the community feel better, but we leave here just to ask CCRB to make sure that you come in our communities, show up, and give the young people a chance and the adults a chance to make a better relationship with police officers. And they also want to hear on how they can be a better resident. I had a couple youth tell me, you know, I'll go to a meeting if you pay me. So I did it. So we paid a youth $50 to go to 88th Community Council, and I have the essay, but I will say from her essay, she said this was her first time ever going to a meeting with police officers. And she felt that it was great. Like, people were talking about how to work with youth, how to work with adults. But what she did not like was kind of what we all do, because we're a certain age, we forget about when we were younger. We talk about youth in a different way, right? We call them disengaged, disconnected. And sometimes when you label us, even adults, you call us criminals, right? Maybe we're gonna go out there and be criminals, right? So if we change the language and how we're talking to each other, we can foster better relationships. Not just because you're a police officer or you're a resident and you guys feel like one is higher than the other, just to take it back to be human, like recognize one another's strengths and be able to talk it out and respond respectfully. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to hear from Tiffany Murray, who's the program manager for Save Our Bed-Stuy.
So, couple of things. I'm short. Let me hold on. I'll fix that. Okay. So my name is Tiffany Murray. I'm the program manager for Save Our Streets Bed-Stuy. We are a program under the Center for Court Innovation, and we work directly under the project from CCI called Neighbors in Action. A couple of things. I work out of the 79th precinct in Bed-Stuy, and I work in the area. If anybody knows about Gates or Marcy, then you know my office is literally in the hot spot of Bed-Stuy. We have what I call a positive and respectful coexistence with the 79th. We don't share information, but because of my role under the mayor's office, I am required to have communication with them, and we communicate very well. Unfortunately, what we have experienced is that the office, it's not so much the officers that function out of the 79th, it's again, the 79th is the testing ground for new officers. And they're only in there for a period of weeks or maybe a couple of months. And they've been told the myths and some of the stereotypes and the various things about our communities, about the community from disenfranchised and jaded officers whom really have not taken the time to get to know the people or the culture of or the history of these communities. And so they assume that every cluster of kids is a gang. And so they treat them like that. And so unfortunately, we've had incidents where I've seen our kids hanging together on the corner laughing and talking with a cop car, the officers I've never seen before watching our kids looking like they're ready to go do something to them. And I literally had to call one of my team members to go to that corner and protect our kids from the officers. I've had to call the inspector at the 79th on numerous occasions because police officers want to come and harass people, particularly our workers. Like, I need you not to talk to my people. You can get my people killed. They see my people talking to, my staff talking to officers. I was not surprised to see that the 77th has a lot of issues and complaints because unfortunately one of my employees was quote unquote arrested, but there's no record of it. There's no paperwork, there's no nothing. His uniform was, his work jacket, which is a part of his uniform, was taken, but nobody knows what happened to it. And I asked him, I said, listen, we can really work with the mayor's office and kind of press this. And he was like, I'm just tired. Like, I don't even want to go through all the stress. And I think about that when Anthony brought up all the people who have problems. It's because it happens so much. It's like I'm going to be complaining maybe once every, week or maybe every 2 weeks because you have those unfortunate jaded officers or officers who really aren't from our community, don't understand the culture or the history of the community. They don't take time to build relationships with the organizations in those communities. And that's how they treat people, is based off of the crimes that happen there and the handful of individuals who are engaged in stuff. And just, I respect everything you said, sister, but the one thing I'm gonna push back on is if I have a bad day with my coworkers, all my coworkers go home. An officer has a bad day, I might not go home that day. That could end up with my life being gone. And so because we work with high-risk individuals, particularly youth 16 to 24, we are deeply aware that there are great officers that care. We love our NCOs. But unfortunately, we can't control the Brooklyn North Task Force that come into our neighborhood or the drug task force that come into our neighborhood and harass and traumatize our communities and our residents. And I think that's the thing, is that we've got to get Commissioner O'Neill and these inspectors held accountable for a poor training and the failure of their officers to understand you just cannot assume. You can't bring your biases into this job because somebody could die or somebody's life can be altered forever, and it's no good. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go to the public comment, and I'm going to read from a list, and I'm going to ask people if they would just line up so we can make this go a little more quickly. And then just remember that you are limited to 2 minutes in your comments, and there's a little timer right here, so we're going to ask you to check it out. So I have Wilhelmina B., Helen Rivera. Just come on up and line up and be ready to speak. Hercules Reed, Genesee Morgan. Just come on up and be ready to speak. Genesee Morgan and Jermaine Lane. So we'll start with those, and then I have more. So if you haven't heard your name, I may call in a minute. So Wilhelmina B., Hercules Reed, Genesee Morgan, Jermaine Lane, and Helen Rivera. Please come on up. Please.
Yes, hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Wilhelmina Brown. I am a case manager at the Brooklyn Public Library at the New Lots Center. So that is your neighborhood. New Lots Learning Center is an adult learning center, and we service adult learners. We actually help you get your, it's now known as a HSE, the high school equivalency diploma. We used to call it the GED. We are also a testing center for the formerly known GED for the TAS test. We also have classes. We have daytime classes, evening classes, and Saturday classes. You can come in for screenings. We left some screening dates out here. All of these services, by the way, are free at the New Lots Learning Center Library. In addition to that, we also have case management services. I am a case manager, so we help you with social issues such as vocational, educational, housing, social services, doing your resume, helping you get in a job. And we were funded, the library now has case managers because we were funded by the government, the federal government, to bring in case managers into our adult learning centers. So New Lots is one of the adult learning centers. We have one in in Flatbush, and one in Crown Heights. So if you want any help with anything, whether it's a social issue, an educational issue, a vocational issue, you can come over to the New Lots Library. We're located at 665 New Lots Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, on the second floor. We did leave some information out there for you to grab up. And many of you are on our partners list, so we also are having a resource fair. Jihad is doing great work. He has been at the New Lots Learning Center representing the CCRB, and now that we have hooked him up with the Central Library, he will be at most of all the Brooklyn library sites, so that the library is like a safe haven, right? So we want you to come on over there and get some help. It's all free. It's for you. It's your community, and we are here to support you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Janice Morgan, and I'm the chair of Brooklyn Community Board 16. And I just wanted to say to the board, as well as the community, that each year the community board goes through an annual statement of district needs, and in that document is a narrative about public safety and what some of our concerns are and what our requests are. And so I hope that as you continue to engage with the communities, that you're reviewing that document, because at the community board, we try to make sure that we incorporate the voice and the concerns that have been raised to us. Not everybody that's in this room right now today, is in that room. And so you're hearing concerns from individuals in this room, but we've captured some of the concerns from the individuals that have been in other rooms. So I hope that the other boards around the city are using that space and those documents to articulate what their community's concerns are. That's a place to memorialize those concerns, hold the city accountable, hold the police department accountable, hold CCRB accountable, and make sure that our voice and our concerns are continuously raised. And so when people say they don't know what it is that we've been asking about and what we've been concerned about, we can tell them it's in that document. So if you don't know, at a minimum, you should have read that document to make sure that you know some of what we're concerned about. And when you're at those tables that we're not at, we hope that you are using that to advocate on our behalf for resources. And I also just want to invite you all to participate in the community board meetings, which are the fourth Tuesday of every month from September through June, and the Public Safety Committee meets on the first Wednesday of every month. CCRB works very closely with the Public Safety Committee, and if we continue to work in the spaces that are created for us to talk, hopefully we can begin to get some resolutions in addition to the 73rd Precinct Council meetings and the 73rd Clergy Council meetings. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. So is there anyone else in that first group I called? Please come on up. If you're in that group that I called, the first group.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hercules Reed, and I would like to start this off with saying thank you guys for the work that you are doing in the community. I'm sure there was a time where the CCRB did not exist, and there was no avenue for people to make complaints. As we know that statistics do speak numbers. So I'm here to speak on behalf of those people in the community who feel like it's their word against ours. Sometimes we do make complaints, sometimes we want to make complaints, but we live in a world where when it comes to authority and hierarchy, sometimes it's their word against ours. And especially in our community where there are low income and minority communities, that seems to be normally the fact. Some of you may or may not have seen these two movies that I'm going to reference, but there's one documentary called The 7-5, which is on Netflix, which specifically talks about corruption in the 75th Precinct District. And as I look at these statistics here on the sheet, it shows that that district still has some of the most high crime and police corruption. Then I think about Crime and Punishment, which is another documentary on Hulu, where we talk about officers who came out and spoke up about what's not going right in their own police department. And they were ostracized. Lieutenant now, Edwin Raymond, who had to fight to just become a lieutenant, and he's within the ranks of who we're telling you we're complaining about. So how do we, as community members, go and say and see positive reinforcement when we're looking at things on TV and it's nothing but corruption? My last piece is to say, we know we could do more, and we're all here because we're tired of hearing the same things over. So thank you guys for the work you're doing, and we look forward to the more that will happen. So thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to address one thing I thought was important about what, I forget,
Hercules Reed.
Hercules Reed. I was going to call him Hercules Mulligan. I apologize. I knew I was wrong. The CCRB is committed to fair and impartial investigations. And so the fact that someone is a civilian and someone is an officer doesn't mean that we take one person's word more than the other. And so I'm not saying that if you come to us, we are going to substantiate the allegation or the complaint that you are making. I'm saying we will treat you equally, and we will assess everything based on the evidence that we are able to gather and an impartial judgment. And so if you have a problem with a police officer and you want to make a complaint, please contact us either at 311 or by email or by on the website, and we will handle the complaint and we will investigate it. We won't just discard it because of who you are. We value you because you are a member of our community, the city of New York.
Anyone else in that first group? All right, I'm going to go to the other names I have. Carolyn Cabbage Stalk. Oh, I see. I don't think we can take it off. We don't have a handheld mic here. Huh? Okay.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I'm Carolyn Cabbage-Stalk. I've been in this community for at least about 36 years or more. I work, eat, sleep in this community. I witnessed something about in December, and I have a good rapport with police officers, and we know a lot of them here. But on this particular day, I guess when they was staking out Langston Hughes, they was blocking the walkway, and they seen me coming. They cared nothing, about moving their car to let me pass. So when I went up to the car, I told them, I need to use the walkway. I guess they wanted me to use the other one on the other side, but I refused to because they shouldn't be blocking it. They moved. I went, did what I had to do, come back, and they were still back in the same walkway again. It doesn't make any sense. It could have been another spot that they could have just moved back a little bit, either moved forward to do their stakeout. They did not have to block like the walkway and stuff in our community. And I felt in order for them to stop blocking it, they had to really be cursed out by someone else that was in a motorized chair before they stopped blocking the entrance, and stuff. Like I said, if you have a bad cop, you have good cops. But in this community and stuff, it's not hard to get along with police officers if they're willing to get along with you. And then there's some who just need to be actually trained all over again. So we don't always have bad experiences here, but I've been volunteering here since 1982, and I'm still volunteering and stuff now, so I thank you.
Thank you. And I would encourage you, that's the kind of discourtesy that we would encourage you to report. So if you would talk to one of our investigators and just let them take the information and let us look into it and see what we can find out.
I didn't know to actually come to y'all, even though, like she said, like Anthony said, you could have went to the precinct. Well, why would you go to the precinct just to complain about one of their boys or their person or their girls? You know what I'm saying? And stuff. They have the wall of blue silence, so we need the wall too, where we can protect our own out here. Okay.
Well, we'll get one of the investigators to come and talk to you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go Gilbert G, because I cannot decipher the last name. Is there a Gilbert here who signed up to speak? All right. No. Okay. Is there anybody with a Gilbert in their name who signed up to speak? All right. I have Roy Antoine. Come, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. I must say that I would like to see more young people here today to know their rights. You know, parents should bring out the kids. When you have a meeting like this, bring your kids out. Let them listen to what goes on. I must say that I had an encounter with the police department. Fortunately, because my integrity and my character stands out, they put me in handcuffs because I answered them a kind of way. Who came up to the respond after they called up for car to take me to the precinct? One of the inspector. And he couldn't believe it. And he asked them what transpired here, and and you put him in handcuffs? Fortunately, somebody know me in the precinct, and I took them to CCRB. I've seen many young boys get arrested on Pitkin Avenue doing nothing because a police officer go up to them and say to them, you. The way they address them, listen to me, I'm a friend of the police department, but a lot of time the way they address our young boys, they do not give them no courtesy, treat them like they are nothing. So I am very happy tonight that the CCRB are here, and I know you're doing a good job, because a lot of things I could testify to, but I'm not going to go into it because of time. But continue doing what you're doing, and we will hold you accountable because, like I said, you're doing a good job. The police department is not always wrong. Our kids doing a lot of things too. So, with that being said, thank you and God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. We have Ricardo Vasquez.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. So my name is Ricardo Vasquez, and I am a youth advocate and a speaker for an agency called You Gotta Believe. And what we do is we try to find, we train individuals to know how to deal with youth who have been traumatized in their life, rather through their parents or through things that has happened through them in foster care, in the community. Whatever it is that they've been through in their lives that has caused them to have some sort of trauma, we work with them and try to find them unconditional love, permanent homes, so that when they age out of foster care, they have somewhere to go. A lot of youth are aging out of foster care with nowhere to go, and these are sometimes, or a lot of times, the reason why you have crime, because we go into survival mode. For example, myself, when I was younger, I didn't really have the resources nor the support for anyone to provide for me, so I had to steal food. I would have to go into the supermarket and steal cereal and milk and those kind of things. Now, when I was 14 years old, I was arrested for robbery 1. Now, I didn't commit the crime, but I was with people who did the crime. Now, had I had the right support, they wouldn't have taken advantage of me and given me 2.5 years and 5 years probation. Now, thank God I got connected with the right people. I don't have a criminal record, but we do have a lot of youth that don't have the knowledge, don't have the support, don't have anyone backing them to prevent these things from happening. And if we want to lower the crime and lower youth getting in trouble, we need to educate them on the rights and wrongs of how to survive, what are the right things, rather if you are going to go get a job, or if you just need somewhere to rest your head, you know what I mean? Rather than breaking into somebody's home, you have somewhere to go. So that's one of the main reasons why I'm here. And I'll be here after the meeting if anyone has any questions. I do have pamphlets to hand out. And we have one of our youths here right now also, who's a very, very inspirational young lady. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And I would say, Ricardo, I think you're a perfect candidate for our Youth Advisory Council, so I'd encourage you to talk to Ms. Alvarez before you leave tonight. Thanks. Does your colleague, your associate, want to speak? The very inspirational one?
My name is Chanel. Hi, I'm 18. I don't know what to say.
Can't hear you.
All right, I'm 18. My name is Chanel. Oh yeah, I'm about to age out of foster care. It's kind of rough right now. I'm in a group home. And it's a lot. I'm sorry.
All right.
So yeah, right now it's a little hard for me. I've been like doing this by myself for a pretty long time. But I am with You Gotta Believe, and I was supposed to be at a panel tonight, but I came here instead. But you know, I'm just trying to like grow from my experience. Thank you.
And I want to. And we just want to encourage you to keep showing up and keep being involved. Malik Reeves.
Good evening, folks. Good evening. Good evening. How y'all doing today? My name is Malik Reeves. I am the Community Engagement Coordinator of Good Call, and this is
Rashawn Nicole, the manager for the outreach of Good Call.
And we are with a nonprofit arrest support hotline. Anybody in the 5 boroughs of New York City that gets arrested can call our hotline and speak with an attorney right on the spot. Anywhere you are in the 5 boroughs. It doesn't have to be you, it could be a loved one. So God forbid if anybody you know get arrested, can call our hotline, which is 833-GOOD-CALL, and connect with a lawyer right on the spot. This is empowering our 6th Amendment, giving us the legal representation that we need at the point of arrest, instead of taking plea deals. I've been arrested before. I've been arrested many times. But if you go on our website, you look at my commercial, you'll see the different outcome that I have received. I kept my job. I wasn't violated on probation. This work here is actually inspirational female, the young lady here, Chanel. She's our intern. She's working with us now. Now she's in the community giving out cards, resourcing this information to folks that need it in our communities. So this here is keeping our families and communities together. So you can look us up on all channels of social media. That's Facebook, IG, Twitter, at Good Call NYC. Thank you, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Did Rashad, did you want to say?
No, I was up here for backup for my colleague, more or less, but he did the job on his own. Again, we're very adamant, we're very young, we're just brothers and sisters of color that's out here trying to make a change and change the narrative on things that's going on. We appreciate what you guys are doing. On a regular basis, we do see the cops mistreating the public or abusing certain rights that we do have. Understanding your rights is not always the end of the war. There is another side of it because it can't be escalated. So always having legal representation, having access to legal representation to help you fight that battle is always key. And that's all I have to say. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Did we hear from Chanel Staggers? Oh, that was you. Okay, that's what I thought. All right, Lisa Kenner? Yeah, she's coming up.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Kenner. I'm the Resident Association President of Van Dyke. I bring you greetings. I want to thank you for coming. I think this was the first time you ever came here. What I'd like to say is that we have 2 new captains at the 73rd at PSA 2. I met with Captain Griffith. He called me, he wanted to meet with me because I went to the PSA2 meeting. So I had a one-to-one with him. Now, before, I'm not going to talk about no officers, but I know before, it was one officer that came and we was talking, but he made a comment that struck a chord with me. He said, the black women out here have 8 babies by 8 different men. Now, that was the wrong thing to say. I don't care if he was a black man, white man, Chinese man. He couldn't say that. I went to his captain, and I told him, he said, well, Ms. Kenner, have you ever said something you ain't supposed to say? I said, yeah, but I ain't no police. So I had to go over his head. I had to make sure that officer got removed from Van Dyke, because if you felt like that about the women, you'll feel that way about our children. Now, when I was talking to him, you see, you get these officers, and I'm gonna have to use black and white because it is black and white. When you get officers, white officers, coming from Long Island, and they never been to school with black people, and they never seen black people till they came here and got on the academy, they got to be trained. You can't say because we live in the projects or we low income that we beneath. No, we better than that, you know. Now, I know this officer is still in PSA 2, and I told my colleague to watch him, and what they did, they put him with another black officer, which happened to be a woman. Maybe he learned something, but you can't do that. Now, I didn't call CCRB. I knew I could call, but if the step that I went to, if they didn't say something, then I would have to call. Now, I'm still kind of leery of him. I just don't want to see him over here in Van Dyke. Really, I don't want to see him in Brownsville. You know, because one thing about it, when you go and you talk to the mayor, the commissioner, sat with the commissioner and stuff, when you talk with them, when people coming into our community, whether it be black or white, they need some training. They need, especially when you live on Long Island all your life and you only went to school with white folks, you don't know about black folks. So you got to do something about that. And I think it just happened to happen at one time, but I'm sure it's happening all along the way. And some people don't know how to react to it. And there happen to be like 8 women at the table. So I had witnesses, and I'm sure some of the women that were sitting at the table, they had children and maybe had about multi men. But that's none of his business because he had to take care of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Just 2 comments on that. One is that's definitely our offensive language. There is an effort on the part of the NYPD to do.
I just want to say this. I met with Captain Griffith. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He seemed like when Deputy Inspector Pegues was here, you know, because I couldn't understand why Pegues could get to do things, you know, because he was out there, he knew. But I'm going to give Griffith a chance, and then the police officer, the captain at 73rd, I see a little change that he's doing. He's trying to clean up Mother Gaston Boulevard.
Good. All right. Excellent. So Ian Hodgson.
Got way closer than me.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? Good evening, everyone. I'm actually a youth counselor supervisor for a program, that services 18 to 21 at-risk youth in the communities that we're all speaking about right now. And what I'm going to speak about comes directly from them, okay? I'm their voice tonight, right? Specific targeting of our clients. Many of our residents have complained to the facility staff of being targeted by the same group of undercover officers, which happens to be a resonating tone tonight. Now, everyone talked about the local cops, but when they spoke about the undercover, they're primarily speaking about their approach in the neighborhood. I'm not a detective. I don't know what it means to be a detective, but I know what it means to know how to approach people and get more information out of them with that approach, right? Can we say that's fair? Okay. So now, the same group of undercover officers, right? They've either been approached by these officers for a stop and frisk with what they consider to be no probable cause at all, or they've been followed home by these officers in their vehicles, of which I have witnessed myself. Navy blue Honda Accord, dark tinted, blacked out windows. I've literally had to leave the facility, bring my boys in. Okay? I've witnessed this. Now, as we are mindful, not every situation can be deemed as harassment or improper behavior on the part of law enforcement. We have reiterated and encouraged the training that the CCRB has presented to our residents. Thank you. To our residents on proper communication and approach with regards to being stopped and or questioned by law enforcement. Because truth be told, how many people know what to say and do when approached by law enforcement? How many people know their rights and what they can and can't say and what can be used against them in the court of law? This is not something we're trained in school, right? We get what our training from our parents. And really, they just want us to come home. And I tell the youth, be respectful, be calm, and come home. If we have to tell them that, there's a problem. Right? Okay. The resounding question with the clients are, should it matter what type and how I wear my clothes? Am I being targeted because I'm black or both? Lower income communities have traditionally been the targets for harassment and victimized by law enforcement in efforts to maintain order in these communities. It's also no secret our judicial system needs work on wrongful convictions and exacerbated sentencing. My question is how a community can change the perception for law enforcement. We spoke about new senior officers. I'm referred to the rookies, right? So now you're perpetuating. You're not solving. You're not communicating. You're not respecting courtesy, respect, and professionalism. Right? And attached to that, another question. We have a big issue. How do officers identify if their approach is with someone with a mental illness, and does the approach change once it's identified? Right? We have issues of ADHD and all these other kind of symptoms. I have more to say, but I'm going to be respectful of the time. And these are the things I would like to see come out in the communication.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you. Thomas Michael. And I want to remind everyone of the time. We're scheduled to be out of here in a few minutes. So,
Good evening. Good night, everyone. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer for 27 years. I'm also a community advocate, a criminal justice advocate. I'm a private investigator, and I work for a law firm now. I've been living in this community for over 30 years, but I moved my family out. Now, I'm going to say what I have to say, and you guys can address my questions later. I hope all of you guys are familiar with the police manual. I hope you are familiar with the Fourth Amendment rights. I hope you're familiar with probable cause, reasonable suspicion, reasonable belief when it comes to community policing. Okay, now, the reason why we have so much police corruption is because it's all part of this mass incarceration. And you guys sit there, you play a very integral part in mass incarceration. I'm going to tell you why. It goes from the precinct, it goes to the court system, it goes to the ADAs, it goes to district attorneys, it goes to the judges. And they're not doing their jobs because it's all about stats and numbers. Now, a lot of these people here said it's training. The cops get trained very well. You know why they can continue to do what they do? It's called accountability. You have people in high places like you guys that when you don't do your job, you send a message to them. Now, we could talk about Freddie Gray, Tamir Rice, Sandra Bland, Philando Castillo, Oscar Grant, and it permeates across this nation because when you don't set an example, the cops take it. When you're going to slap them on the wrist, it's no different from all of us having children. They have a temper tantrum. If we don't punish them, their behavior continues. So in order for us to stop the police corruption, it's going to take people like you on this board to play a part. I've been dealing with CCRB before Mayor Dinkins civilianized it, when police was policing police. And I just want to say to the community, who police the police? We police the police by knowing our rights because we are the conscience of the community. We dictate what's right and what's wrong. We pay their salary. So I also have a mentoring program where I teach all of my young men all of their constitutional rights. I do teach them how to comport themselves when they are being stopped by the police. Now, all of these forms right here are from you guys, okay, CCRB. I've been representing young men from Brownsville, Crown Heights, Bed-Stuy for over 30 years, and you know what? It's not about this. The police department don't do nothing to these guys because you know why? They're going to pay the lawsuit. I settled in the last 3 years 50 lawsuits, some of them for 6 figures. But it's not the money. The police cannot break the law to enforce the law because they are the protectors of the law. But when they take the law into their own hands, they become just as bad as the people that break the laws themselves. And I'm going to end with this. An injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Okay? But we are empowered to make a difference.
Thank you. Thank you. Maxine Fisher. Maxine Fisher. All right, your turn. You figure that one out.
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon to the panel. I must say I'm the proud mother of Mr. Rose over there. And so I have to be here tonight. I give God the glory.
Amen.
Yes, and this is what I'm going to really say, and everybody have their own opinion, but we have to be fair. And I remember in the 80s when I raised 3 wonderful young men and 1 daughter in East New York, Pennsylvania, and I remember when we could talk with the police. And I remember friending police, and I will tell them, because mommy has to go to work, those 3 right there and that one right there, they're mine. You have the authority when you see them outside after dark, because I'm not home, to make sure they go inside. And so we have to give respect to get respect. And also we have to do our part. Now, last week I was on the platform of the L train, and what I saw was very disrespectful. It was on 2 officers, the profanities that were coming from their mouth. It was just unbearable. And they had the young man pushing him up against the corner, and I says to myself, I thank God that back in the 80s when I was a single mom, I never had to go through this, because seeing the one that's supposed to be protecting you, treating you the way that they treat you, you lost all kind of respect. And again, I would say when the police comes to you, do what you're asked to do. I think we will have a better, the communication will be better. I always tell my sons when I was there with them, the police approach you, I didn't raise you to be a thug. Make sure you pull your pants up. Make sure you do what the police asks you, because I want you to come home. But we cannot put all the blame on you guys, because we as parents still have to do what we have to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Zachary, and that's about as close as I can get. Someone named Zachary signed up to speak. No? All right. Dr. Marcus?
Greetings to one and all. My name is Dr. Burchell M. Marcus. I'm the community director here in Brooklyn, advocating for all of Brooklyn. I know many of you know me, and I'm the type of person that I don't condone what's wrong, I condone what's right. And being an advocate of law, I have a master's in constitutional law, trained by the best in law school, Judge Spalding, who was a Supreme Court judge. My father, God rest the dead, who was a lawyer. My godfather, who was a lawyer. And the only way this charade could be fixed is if we get involved. We all have to get involved, know your rights, know the law. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Now, we have a system that's literally violating the rights of the people, and it must change, and only we can change it. We are human beings under God's law, which is common law. And right now, our justice system is practicing, I have some esquires here who understands what I'm saying. They're practicing maritime admiralty law on land, and it must stop. I'm heading to the United Nations on Friday to address this here. We have to stop the atrocities committed by our justice system, and they're calling it law. Mind me, if you get arrested for policy, guess what? That's an illegal arrest. Policies are not laws, period. They are not laws. You should not be arrested for policies. We have our officers out here arresting people on policies. It must stop. And CCRB, you need to stand up and let these people know, let the officers know, let the district attorneys know, because they do know, but refuse to take action. Let them understand, no, we're not going to let your officers keep arresting people for policies. We're going to stand up and stop it. I held a march on 73rd Precinct when Inspector Wright had his officers riding around in the vans, picking up our young men and giving them disorderly conduct charges and whatnot just to get them in the system. I witnessed it and I said, no, this has to stop. And I called 7 of my organizations out. And guess what? We had over 5,000 people at that precinct and we shut it down. This is why they were fighting to put an end to stop and frisk, because it's illegal and unconstitutional. You must know your rights. The Constitution do not give you rights, it protects your rights. And if you don't know it, you better start knowing it, because we are under attack and we need to stand up. I was in court today. I understand time, but this is important. I was in court today and I was so appalled when a judge committed treason on the bench. I called my contacts to the UN. They said, Doc, you need to come on down and let's address this. Judges are committing treason on the bench, locking our people up illegally. So how are we going to stop it? We have to collaborate together to stop it. So I want to say to each one of you, get with us, get to understand the law so we can make the changes that's necessary to be changed. Thank you.
Thank you. We have two more speakers, and we'll close it out with that. Daniel Gooden.
Good evening. Well, I'm going to be on the other side of this. Okay, for those of you that know me, you know how I get down. It's about the youth. And I'm going to have to tell you why it's about the youth. Because in the 80s, when I was a guardian angel, we went to Atlanta, Georgia when he was killing young people. If you read the book Evidence of Things Not Seen by James Baldwin, I bodyguarded him. So for me to come back to New York and see the way some young people was treated in the street, including myself, and I have filed grievances that went unheard. And the sad part is that, case in point, I'm going to take it somewhere else. The sad part is that when Ken Thompson was here and he started digging up some cases, look how many people came back home. Look how many people was mistreated. It wasn't fair. They was locked up for 30 years. This is what we see every day. Unfortunately, my general was Sonny Carson. We never called 911. We called our brothers. Some of my brothers is in this room. We didn't call the police because we didn't like the way the police dealt with our people. My brothers, yeah, I could slap them up a little bit. They knew I loved them, but I didn't kill them. It's a sad scenario right now because when the commissioner came and said that Rockaway Avenue was the most dangerous block in Brooklyn, we know that's not true. But what I do know that the developments that he named, Brownsville, Marcus Garvey, and Tilden, is where my young people live that might be gang affiliated or maybe hanging with people. So there's a target now on their backs because of that. There's a target because the commissioner said this is the most dangerous block in Brooklyn. But I know it's not. So I took the tour, and I'm sorry about the time, but I just need to tell you this. I took the tour. I went through Brownsville late at night. I went to Tilden, and I stopped over in Marcus Garvey and talked to some guys. And before he made that statement, I was very depressed. If you ever meet the commissioner, thank him for bringing me out my depression. For those that haven't seen me in a while, I'm back up because the commissioner made a statement that I cannot allow to be true in Brownsville. So we all need to come together. We all need to understand our rights as a people, because sometimes it ain't even about the young people behavior. It's about buildings. Neighborhoods getting ready to get gentrified. If your children get in trouble in the developments, they're going to be all right. They're going to go to jail. The parents are going to be displaced. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Very much. Thank you. And then our final speaker for the night is Phyllis Goddard.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Phyllis Goddard. I live in 376 Blake Avenue, apartment 1C. I have 3 sons and 1 daughter. And about 2 years ago, somebody called the police on my son, Corey, and the cops came and broke my door down. I worked for housing for 22 years, and I was called from work, and I came over to see what was going on. They would not let me in my apartment. They tore my house up. They pulled everything out my refrigerators. They tossed beds. They tore dressers. They did everything possible in my home where my children and I live. And when I asked, can I enter my apartment to check on my children, they told me, no, you have to wait outside. You cannot come inside. So I waited and I waited. I had a dog, a Shih Tzu. They had my dog in a cage with a sheet over her. They were in my living room, sitting on my couch, watching my television, being very disrespectful to me and my family. And they came out. After about maybe 3 or 4 hours, they had me waiting. And when they came out, the officer came out with a gun on a pen, which my son does not own a gun. And they set my son up, and they took both of my children, and they arrested them, and they took them through the system. And I cried because I know my sons are not into that. I'm not saying they are perfect children because nobody has a perfect child, but they came in my home and they invaded my privacy for no apparent reason, for hearsay. And I think that that was very wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone again for coming out tonight. We appreciate your comments. We will take them all into account as we continue to do our work at CCRB and try to be responsive to your issues that you confront when it comes to engaging the NYPD. I want to ask my fellow board members if there is any old business to come before the board. Any new business to come before the board? A motion, please, to adjourn to executive session. Is there such a motion? Is there a second? All those in favor of adjourning to executive session, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. We are adjourned. Thank you again.